Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Discover SETsquared. My name is Monica Ratcliffe, and I'm the Centre Director of SETsquared Bristol. I hope you enjoyed this little video that we did with our team. As I said at the end, come on to our open day. But now, because we're doing a lot of our activities virtually, we decided to launch this in a virtual format as Discover SETsquared. So hopefully you still get a sneak peek into how we work and how it all looks like for you. And this is for anyone who's considering SETsquared as a potential route to grow their business. I hope to provide you with information about what we do, but also opportunity for you to ask questions. So I have a short presentation prepared for today, which I'm just going to put on screen. Just bear with me, please. Hopefully that will work. Just 1 second, I want to make sure I get it right. Okay. Hopefully you can see the slides. Can I see thumbs up if you can see the slides? Excellent, wonderful, thank you very much. So what to expect from the next 55 minutes. First of all, as I said, I'm going to do a short intro on SETsquared. It's going to take about 15 minutes, and I just want to say that there will be an opportunity to ask questions and answers at the end, but if you have any kind of urgent questions that you worry you might forget, just please post them in the chat. We'll pick them up later. And then I will introduce one of my colleagues, Rick Chapman, who will talk about what is it like to be entrepreneur in residence at SETsquared. So you hear a point of view from him. And then we got one of our members, Yuri Prokhorov from Helastel, who will come and present his perspective of, setting up a business and then joining SETsquared and what he got out of the experience. And the last section of this event, I'll bring on board my colleague Paul Forster, who's a community manager, to facilitate the Q&A. So as I said, please feel free to post questions in the chat throughout this next hour, but also any useful info that we're sharing, we'll be putting links in there. So just keep an eye on the chat. It's a great way to get access to information. Right, so let's jump into who we are. SETsquared Bristol. We're part of a partnership of 5 incubators that are led by 5 universities in the Southwest. So we have University of Bath, Bristol, Exeter, Southampton, Exeter, and Surrey. And being part of that partnership gives us access to much bigger scale activities and an excellent network of different investors as well as supporters for our companies. We here at SETsquared Bristol, we were set up by University of Bristol in 2002. So we have a really long history of working together, now almost 19 years being supported by the university. And having access to the university also gives extra benefits for the companies that are working with us, because you can, for example, get access to latest research, academics, or even hiring students as interns. And just highlighting Engine Shed as our home, physical home. So we're based at Engine Shed, which is right next to Temple Mead Station in Bristol. And this is our physical hub. But a lot of what we do is a virtual. So we do have members from across the whole country. And these are just some of the stats of what the companies that are working with us have achieved. We have supported 270 startups who have collectively raised £500 million. This is an incredible achievement, and that investment then enabled them to grow and create thousands of jobs, which is really fantastic in terms of boosting economic development of the region. And those achievements of our companies helped us secure the awards for the incubator. So we can only be grateful to the companies we're working with. We were ranked global #1 university business incubator in 2015, 2017, and 2019. So 3 times in a row. And also last year, we were the winner of the hottest Accelerator award at Europa's 2020. So fantastic recognition for our members and for our incubator. So as I mentioned, I'm talking about the members of the incubator. Right now, we work with around 85 companies, and these are just some of them. And if you're into startup ecosystem, you may recognize some of those names. Ultraleap on the left side is one that is sort of set to become a unicorn pretty soon, and we hope that's going to happen. So Ultraleap are one of our alumni, and they were set up by a University of Bristol student who went on to then set up a business, and we supported him from the beginning of the journey. So it's quite a fantastic story. And then on the right, we see Helastel, so we hear Yuri's story later on. And those companies come from a number of different sectors. So we are an incubator for technology businesses, but as you know, technology is everywhere. So some of those companies are medical technology companies. Some of them are sort of pure softwares, agri-tech, fintech, edtech, health tech. They come from all sorts of sectors. So if you're wondering, is it for me? I'm sure we can. I'm sure we pretty much have representatives in every single possible cluster. So how do we work? What's our approach to help the founders succeed? How do we work to help the companies that join us achieve success? First of all, our program, our incubation is completely bespoke, and this is quite unusual. If you think about any other sort of incubator models, they have a very defined program. You join in, it's pretty much sort of 3-month program or 6-month program, and everyone goes through the same thing. We realized early on that we have to put the founders first, and their experiences and their journeys are never the same. So while some companies may need help with fundraising, other companies may need help with hiring people or sorting out their marketing strategy, we have to be flexible and create a flexible program to actually fulfill the needs of those companies. And we have developed a toolbox that has got specific activities and tools that can help those companies. So it's very bespoke, puts founders first, and it's quite unique in an ecosystem of incubators. We also boundaryless. What does it mean? So we go across different boundaries of tech sectors, as I mentioned. We very much focus on diversity inclusion. Traditionally, historically, tech sector has always been very, very white and male dominated. Well, I think we've broken through that assumption. We have an extremely diverse set of members, and we're very proud of that. And we champion a number of different initiatives to help our incubator be very diverse. So, for example, we have a breakthrough bursary, which awards bursary to founders from BME backgrounds. And also, we just launched Enterprising Women program, which helps women setting up businesses at a very, very early stage. And the boundaryless also means that geographically we can work from anywhere and support companies that are based anywhere in the UK. We do have a legal requirement to work with UK registered companies, but you can really be anywhere to work with us because of our program that over the past year have gone completely virtual. With easing of the restrictions, we'll be coming back to the office and doing more activities within sort of physical hub in Bristol. However, we'll continue supporting companies that are based across the UK. And finally, brilliance. This is hugely important to us, and we have always focused on quality over quantity. We want to make sure that what we deliver really results in success for our company. So that's why we always improve our program and change it to adapt. And the results are that companies that have gone through us, through our program at SETsquared, are 4 times more likely to survive than average startup, which is, again, something we're very proud of. So just to go into a bit more detail about what the program is, what is it? If you apply to SETsquared and you get in and join us, what is it that you can expect? As I said, we're putting you as a founder in the center. So we work with you one-on-one, and you get access to our entrepreneurs residence, you get access to our pool of mentors, you get access to our team. And then beyond that, we work on helping you sharpen your skills and offer access to a wide range of trainings available to you and your team as well. So whether you're thinking to develop your entrepreneurial skills, for example, pitching on stage or negotiation skills, or thinking about more business skills like how do you protect your intellectual property, how do you hire your first employee. We got training available for that. And also we got access to various different advisors in residence who can provide you with support on how to do it. And then going beyond that, we provide access to community and network. And then we found that hugely important because it can be very lonely to be setting up and growing your business. So actually engaging with other entrepreneurs on the same journey is very comforting, and also you can learn from each other's mistakes and each other's successes. But also going wider, it's about access to the network of investors or potential customers, which we also help with. So in terms of how it works from a practical perspective, you may be wondering, okay, so, you know, I get all of this, but, you know, how much does it cost? How does it work? So the membership to join SETsquared currently is £200 plus VAT per month. This is per business. But if you're a startup at a really early stage and you are not generating any revenue, we can offer a discounted rate of 150. So for that, you get access to all of the services I have described, all of the incubation support, mentors, entrepreneurs, residents, trainings. And also, if you're local, you get access to our building, access to the business lounge at Engine Shed. And then if you're local and you require access to space, so if, for example, you got fed up working from your bedroom for all those lockdowns and you're just willing to join a more vibrant hub and ecosystem, we do have desks available in our co-working spaces, and that's extra £100 per month. Or if you already got a team and are looking for space to join, we got dedicated offices, minimum 4 people, but we can go up to 16. And the price depends on the availability. And all of our members, whether they're virtual or residential, get access to our meeting rooms and the lounge at Engine Shed. And this is just to show you some of the spaces we have available at Engine Shed. So you can see a picture of our sort of shared co-working spaces, our dedicated offices, and the lounge. But I also wanted to highlight that if this is not the right space for you, we also have a number of partner organizations that we work with across Bristol that have more specialized office spaces. So for example, if you need sort of workshop space and labs, we get access to QTIC, which is a quantum innovation center at University of Bristol based at Cathedral Square. That is also available to companies. If you need specialist wet labs, that could be available through our and other spaces. So if this is something you're looking at with restrictions easing and you're thinking of going back to the office, we'll be happy to have a chat with you on addressing your needs. So I hope that was very useful, and you may be wondering, you know, are you ready to join SETsquared? Do I meet entry criteria, and what are they? So first of all, as I said, you have to be a tech business. And we're looking for companies that are developing unique technologies, possibly something that could be protected as your intellectual property. You need to be thinking about scaling your business in terms of size of your business, in terms of number of people. If you're just thinking of being sort of a single founder and a single employee in your company, we're probably not the right space. We're looking for growth in terms of people, but also financial success. So you have to be thinking about how to scale a business, successfully. We're looking for people who are able to listen and take feedback on board, because we tend to be quite honest and constructive with our members. If we see that, you know, there's something that is not working for your business, we will tell you, but this is only for your benefit. So we're looking for people that can take this feedback on board and apply in the business. Funding, the question we often get asked, like, do I need to be fundraising? Well, not necessarily. We find that perhaps 50% of companies that join us never actually go the fundraising route. They just tend to grow organically through the revenues that they have, or they may be applying for some grants. So the funding isn't really a necessity here. If you are looking to raise funding, we can of course help you with that. And finally, it's whether you are looking for home, and not saying here a physical home or hub location. Are you looking for a community to join? Are you looking for a group of entrepreneurs to connect with? Whether that's virtually or physically, we can be the place for you. So just to wrap up, we're here for you. We're here to help. This is our team. You'll recognize some of the faces later on. So in a moment, I'll hand over to Rick, who's in the top right corner. And at the end, we'll finish off with Q&A from Paul, who's on the bottom right. But this is our extended team. So you can always reach out to any of us and ask us questions. And at the bottom, I've included a link to our website if you want to check out more details or find out more about what we're doing. We also tend to post really useful blogs and interviews with entrepreneurs that you can have a read. And that's all I wanted to cover during my session. Hopefully that gave you a bit more information about who we are, how we work, and give you an idea whether we're right for your startup. And as I said, we'll be doing Q&A at the end. So if you had any questions, just post them in the chat. We'll put them up later. And now I'd like to hand over to Rick for an overview of the entrepreneur in residence activity. Rick, over to you. I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you, Monica. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So I'm Rick Chapman. I'm one of the entrepreneurs in residence at SETsquared. And I'd just like to give you a little bit of background for what is an entrepreneur in residence, what do we do, and why am I excited to have my role. The first thing to say is we are all previously entrepreneurs. So we've been there, we've done this, we've been in our own startups, we've helped other startups, we've coached, we've raised finance. I personally have been through 4 startups from day one through to the end story. And before you think, wow, that's fantastic, not all the success either. So my shorthand is 1 win, 1 loss and 2 score draws. And the best learning was probably in the one that didn't work, that made the others a little bit better. So we've got some battle scars, and the way I see my role is helping the member companies, helping the founders who join SETsquared not make the same mistakes I made. Believe me, there are plenty of fresh mistakes out there still to be made, and creativity is wonderful. But if we can help those members, those founders who join the program to not make those mistakes, to base their success on our experience, maybe we can accelerate them, maybe we can help them solve some of those challenges. And what are those challenges? Well, as Monica mentioned earlier, there are really 2 challenges that I try and address with the companies that I work with. The first of all is that the businesses need to grow. People who join SETsquared have that growth ambition, and to grow a business, there's loads of things, loads of challenges, loads of problems to overcome, be it in marketing, be it in operations, HR, finance, whatever it is. The business needs to grow. But as importantly, the entrepreneur or the founder also has a growth challenge. You don't want the company to leave you behind. You want to be driving the company. And everybody who joins us has strengths and weaknesses. There are things that you've probably got in your experience where you may well have more experience than I've got. But there are probably also some areas where you're not as strong as you need to be. And part of my role is helping you to cover all of those bases, either yourself or through growing a team, getting some advice around you, taking on mentors, growing a board, whatever it is. It's not necessarily just your journey, but it is your journey within your company, and making sure that those remain lockstep, synchronized, is really important. Why do I kind of have the audacity to sit here and lecture you about this? Well, over my time with SETsquared, I started this role in 2012. It's a part-time role. Most of my working life is still out there working inside companies, chairing companies, leading companies, etc. This is a part-time role. But in that time, I've worked personally with over about 100 members, 5 really good exits from those membership, £80 million raised from those 100 companies. And as Monica says, not all of them raised equity. Some of them grew organically. One of the ones I'm proudest of went to, I think, £300,000 revenue per month and never raised a single penny from the money markets. Purely organic growth, really rapid rise. before they sold to a big American company. So we've got a track record of success. And why that's important is because an awful lot of the problems that you will face on your entrepreneurial journey, we have seen before. And I tend to use, like with many things, an 80-20 rule. 80% of the challenges you face, I'll have seen before. But that 20% will be unique to your business, your tech, your market, your stage of growth. And that makes even the generic stuff I've seen before different every single time. That's what motivates me. That's what I love about this job, because every single day I'm in my SETsquared hat, if you like. Every single meeting is different. But there's enough of that generic problem for me to have a great place to start working with you so that together we can overcome that challenge, solve that problem. We do that by building a trusted relationship with you. Monica mentioned we are honest, sometimes brutally so. One of the hardest parts of my job is occasionally saying to an entrepreneur, look, we really don't think this business is going to work. One of my greatest successes is one of our founders who we had that conversation with. They came to that realization as well. They stopped that business before they'd raised money or gone bankrupt or run out of energy. And 3 months later started a second business, which has been a huge success because we were able to be honest and blunt with them the first time round. And they learned the tools and techniques to analyze the second business and make a success of it. So you can only do that from a trusted relationship. You have to be able to deliver and hear the good news and the bad news. I know enough about technology to ask the stupid questions, and I'm not afraid to ask the stupid questions, to ask the challenging questions. Some meetings I'll be hard and I'll be tough. Some meetings I'll be soft. Sometimes I'll be a coach. Sometimes I'll be a mentor. Sometimes I'll be a therapist. And sometimes I'll just be an ear, sympathetic ear to listen to. It really depends on where you are and what the challenge is today, tomorrow, and in the next month and the next year. But we are here for the long haul. On average, companies are with us about 2.5 years. It's not an 8-week program and there's milestones to hit. We go at your pace and probably 5% faster than you're comfortable with because we want to drive that growth. But if there's too much pressure, my job's to take pressure off you. And if there's not enough pressure, it's to reload it back onto you to keep that pace going. So we do that through a very simple technique: diagnosis, challenge, and support. We'll sit down, we'll talk through the problem, we'll diagnose them. What are the important ones? What are the high priority tasks to address? I'll then challenge you. Okay, how are we going to do that? And then I'll support you to find solutions for those challenges in the right priority order. And once we've ticked a few off, we'll go back to the next round of diagnosis. What are the next things we need to address? We do that through teaching, workshops, coaching, mentoring, as I've mentioned. There's a number of phases that all of our startups will go through: finding the product market fit first, most important thing, growing a team, growing finance, which might be raising external finance. It might be making sure your business model generates profit to drive growth. It will be planning for growth. How is the team going to grow? How's the business going to grow? How are the operations going to grow? And within that, there's a whole heap of individual skills. Might be negotiation skills, reading a contract, hiring your first people. We have some tools and techniques. We also have some playbooks and gambits. You know, again, I've got experience, but I'm supported by a fantastic team, and also 85 other current members and 200 alumni members who all have experience, and we lean on all of that. So it's not just, does Rick know the answer? Because 9 times out of 10, I might not. But do I know the person who knows the answer? And my job is to connect you to that person and drive your company forward. I often describe myself as the GP on the staff for businesses, because people come into the office and I never quite know what they're going to talk about. And I will try and help there and then, but supported by that fantastic network. Maybe I'll refer you to the specialist. Maybe I'll refer you to one of our advisors in residence. Maybe I'll move you on to our alumni, which, with a beautiful segue, I'm now going to do. And I'd like to introduce you to Yuri Prokhorov, CEO of Helastel, who I had the pleasure of working with a little bit during your time as SETsquared, but I wasn't your primary EIR, but our paths did cross. I observed your journey a little bit from external, and I'd love to invite Yuri to share with all of us a little bit more of the internal details of that journey. The screen switch will happen. Over to you, Yuri.
Great. Thank you, Rick. Hello, everyone. To follow on Rick's analogy of GPs, I was definitely one of the patients. My journey with current company, Helastel, started in 2011. We're a software consulting business, and we help organizations scale and grow using technology. We look at their business processes and help them optimize those processes using technology. And when we started about 10 years ago, things went okay for about first 2-3 years. We grew slowly. At about 5-year mark, we got to a point where we had about 7 people, and we just plateaued. We weren't really growing anymore. I wasn't really sure what to do. I was an owner managing, running a business of 7 people essentially. And we kind of really struggled for strategy and execution, actually. And I came across SETsquared by complete accident, actually. And what attracted me really was the community that was really quite diverse. And we joined SETsquared in about 4.5 years ago, something like that, really in this sort of state of despair and unsureness about what to do. We had an aspiration to launch a product, but we weren't really sure how to do that, and all we did was consulting. And really what took place over the next 4.5 years, we grew as an organization 40% year on year, completely bootstrapped. We didn't take any investment at all. And we today are sort of 80, 85 people, something of that nature. And I can definitely attribute a huge proportion of our success to SETsquared, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about today. And what I should note really is that the story that Rick is describing in terms of relationship between him or the mentors, or EIRs is the correct name in SETsquared, and the entrepreneurs is very much as described. When we initially joined, our mentor was Gravel, and he was very honest with me in telling me what I was doing right. There wasn't that many things, and what I was doing wrong, of which there are many. And it was actually a bit of a journey of baptism by fire, because one of the first things I realized that SETsquared have a very, or in my opinion anyway, a very well developed framework of terms and references and processes and how to coach and train someone. And so you sort of have to step up and learn that language in a way. And in the process of that language, what I discovered was that actually, as I was learning it, I was learning a huge amount of information about business. And there were 3 programs as soon as we joined that took place, or 4 really. We had a mentor, Grav, who I went to see every week, and he would sort of set me homework, and I would do that homework, which was really beneficial to the organization, to my own development. And there were 3 other things. There was the, it might have a different name today, but there was effectively a mock board program where a number of people came together to help you hold these mock board meetings and essentially simulate formation of a board. We had a business review panel, which is an invitation of different industry experts who would come together to give you sort of an external review of your organization and to help answer some of the more strategic questions you might have. And then there was a shorter course, I think it was called Investor Readiness course, it might have a different name today. And essentially it's sort of, it came across a little bit like the A to Z guide of the things that SETsquared will teach you in your journey through SETsquared. Of course, it wasn't complete, but it was enormously useful because it set out a way of thinking about business. It set out a way of behaving as a CEO in an organization, working in the business rather in the business. And it also sort of highlighted to me at the time, like almost the first, the second, the third mile that organizations go through, and gave me context about where organization is really at. And that was very, very helpful indeed. And in our journey, what started happening is what I would notice is my behavior as a CEO was starting to change. The way I was making decisions was changing, was becoming more strategic. The way I was hiring people was much more strategic as well, which meant we were getting better people into organization, getting better growth. And more importantly, one of the things that it really changed the organization is respect for having a board and having a rhythm in the organization for running the business, making decisions, making informed decisions that are well reported rather than a little bit random, is what we were doing essentially. And that mock board program really taught us in later life how to set up a board of directors, which we have today, which essentially runs our organization, defines the strategies, and enables us really, really well to do in the market. Now, a lot of conversations about, well, I found about startup accelerators and mentors and so on and so forth, they're all around business and the organization, where it's going, or what kind of business you're and what you're doing. But for me, probably the largest turning point is the change in me. So I noticed that through me thinking differently about business, through me essentially upgrading my skills through these series of these exercise experiences, through excellent mentorship that I received, it essentially made me a better CEO, which ultimately had an impact on the organization. At least I like to think so anyway. The other thing is the community. That certainly before joining SETsquared, having spent 5 years growing this organization, not really met that many CEOs, not really met many likely minded CEOs who would be in the same sector, actually coming in touch with the community where there were dozens and dozens of people who were meeting physically regularly in Bristol, and being able to discuss issues and topics and challenges was invaluable, because suddenly I was going from, oh, it's just my problem, it must be just me that don't have enough cash, to discovering that actually majority of startups don't have enough cash, and this is just kind of normal, and these are the things you do in order to optimize that sort of thing. And that support, along with mentors, meant that I essentially felt, in my journey anyway, felt more courageous around making business decisions, feeling they are the right decisions. And if there were wrong decisions, it was also okay, and it wasn't a problem. I would know what to do with it, because I had the community and the mentors and the program and the support. Now, I have to say that the slide that Monica gave about, are you ready? Is this for you? Is very valid. I'd like to leave a couple of pieces of advice on the table, having been through the journey. The first one is you really got to want it, in my experience anyway. Consistency and desire to come to your mentor, to your GP, and tell them about what hurts today on regular basis, what you're doing well and what you're not doing so well, and all the warts and all, and then hear the advice, hear the criticism, and adapt and adapt and adapt, is actually quite challenging, particularly at early stages of the organization, when, in my experience, in my case, certainly everything was a little bit chaotic. Then you suddenly have the added homework from your mentors about what to do and how to do that. You really got to be ready to and willing to do that. And I think it's, I've spoken to a number of people about SETsquared. I think it's one of those things where you just got to ask yourself, do you really want to go on the journey of scaling and really rolling your sleeves up and growing your organization? And that answer normally comes from your gut. It happens pretty quickly, and it's easy to identify it. The second thing really is that you got to want to see the changes through. So as you go through this whirlwind SETsquared program, it will almost certainly, if you commit to it, it will have a hugely positive impact. But what I would say is also then being able to see through that impact and take on board into your, the next following years, the things you've learned at SETsquared, and be consistent with it, in my experience, has had a really big impact. In a nutshell, to summarize in my last 60 seconds, what I'd say to you guys is that SETsquared was really, really worth for us. We absolutely would not be where we are today. We wouldn't have had a board. We wouldn't have grown. We wouldn't have taken people on board in the way we did. It absolutely is responsible for a huge proportion of what has happened to us in a positive sense. And I would really recommend you to do this with the caveat that you really got to want it. And that's me. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Yuri, for sharing your story. It's been insightful. We're now joined by Forster, a community manager, who will facilitate a Q&A.
Hey, everybody. I think I recognize a couple of you, so welcome. You are very welcome to put some questions and answers in the chat if you want to, but if not, please do raise a hand and we'll select you and you can ask them verbally, like in old school times. So please do. This is a great opportunity to talk to Yuri, Monica, and myself, and also Rick if you have questions for any of the four of us. Everyone's typing, that's a good sign. Okay, so first up is from Ruben, and they say, do you know of any sources of funding to cover expenses for startups in the very earliest of stages? And then there's a caveat to that, which is at what stage do startups typically seek investment? So I will get somebody to answer that first question first, because I'm guessing that fundraising might be in other people's minds. So Monica, what do you think when it comes to sources of funding to cover expenses for startups at the very earliest of stages?
I can answer that, but actually I can see Rick waving, so he might be a place to answer that, and it would be great then to hear Yuri's story on how he did it at early days.
I was just going to mention actually some breaking news. So the British Business Bank has just launched something called the Startup Loans Scheme. It's typically around £7,000 worth of loan, but it can be up to 25,000 for a founder. If you're co-founders, two of you can apply for it and get a portion each. It is a loan, so you have to pay it back, but it is designed to kind of cover that very first stage where a small amount of money will make a big difference.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks.
Yuri, how did you do that in your business?
Well, our story was a little bit simpler in a sense that we started out as a consulting firm, so we were just charging for our money, for our time. We're charging money for our time. Essentially, what we did was to try and secure a customer first who would pay us a retainer. It was fairly small at the time, but what it meant, it paid for the staff that were doing the work, and then it left a little bit behind for us to do then all the development. So that was our way around. But a little bit later, so within the first year, particularly for organizations that do software development, and this happens a lot of organizations qualify for R&D tax schemes. So although it doesn't give you immediate cash injection, there is a scheme that can give you a cash injection within the financial year. That we found it very helpful at the beginning.
And just yeah, from my experience, what I'm seeing with the founders that are approaching us, lots of people are starting their startups while they're in full-time jobs, and it's quite common to just start in evenings or weekends, and then maybe some people then can go kind of part-time, do paid work for 2 or 3 days, and then focus on a startup and build up from that. That's a good way to sort of get going while you can cover your bills. But yes, there's loans available. Also worth looking at different grants available. I think especially now with sort of post-COVID economic recovery, there's some funding available and grants, smaller and bigger. You can look for sort of smaller, kind of a couple of thousands, but also Innovate UK has got much bigger grants if you kind of in R&D space and working on more innovative IP. Unfortunately, our incubator doesn't offer funding, but there are other places that where you apply, you kind of get funding that comes with it. But then there's sort of another way of securing early stage funding is just building out your network and participating in events, even virtual events right now, and trying to find someone who could be your first angel investor. And there are a number of groups within Bristol, and obviously in other geographic areas as well, but we most well connected in Bristol in terms of different angel groups where you can pitch your ideas. But sometimes, having just someone initially who can put in the first 10K or 20K makes all the difference.
Thanks, Monica. I just want to echo what Monica said around the different opportunities coming from the government. Quite a few of our startups that were looking for equity investment actually decided to go for debt instead because the terms were more favourable. So I think there's a couple of questions in the comments around investment. It's not always the right option. It can often be the right option if you've got hardcore R&D to face. But I think one of the most important things for you to look at is, do you want to give a bit of your company away to grow it, or do you want to find another way to fund it? So hopefully that will have answered all of your questions, Ruben. So Dan Wright has asked, are you holding face-to-face meetings yet, or are you in offices? So I'll answer that one myself. We are, as a team, back in the office around about one day a week at the moment. So there'll be one of us in at any given time. That's not inclusive of the mentors at the moment. So all of the mentors and advisors are still meeting via video link, and the whole of our program is currently still virtual. That's something that Jack and I are sort of considering at the moment. Obviously, we would like everything to move back to how it was, but we have to consider the reality of the situation. But if you were inside the incubator, then you would have people there to talk to and to support you. And we already have quite a specific structure in place to make sure that works well. Okay, I've got a question from Mike and Hez, which says, I'm at the beginning of my journey and have the skill set to get going, which is good. For the next 12 months, I'm seeking funding for the alpha development stage with Innovate. Would you recommend joining at this stage or waiting until the product is ready for market and growth ready? Monica or Rick, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, I can go ahead first and see if we can add anything. So, you know, it doesn't work this way that you only have one shot with us. You can always apply, and the way how it works, you apply online, we review the application, and then we'll provide you with feedback if we think you are too early. And then if we think that there's a possibility we could work together, we'll invite you for an hour-long interview to have a longer discussion. But in the past, what we've done is, you know, when we met companies and realized they're too early, we just gave them loads of feedback during that hour and quite intensive mentoring session. So you can go back and work on those things and then come back, let's say, in 3 or 6 or 12 months to reapply. So I think, you know, we'll have to know more information to make a judgment. So application is always a good first step.
The thing I would add to that is just regarding your Innovate application. If you Innovate programs are generally quite competitive and oversubscribed, and if you are going to win the Innovate funding, you will have to complete the section on market, on project potential, etc., even for early stage funding from Innovate. So you will already have had to do some homework, some research on your potential markets, your engagement strategy with those markets, etc. So you're probably a little bit further on by the time you win that Innovate grant than a lot of people think they are. And it's very important to see that as a balanced perspective. If you are just writing about the technology, you are probably too early for Innovate as well as for us.
Thanks.
I couldn't agree more, actually, with Rick saying. I've seen quite a few people, I know applied for Innovate, but I've seen quite a lot of examples where people apply to Innovate and what a difference it makes just putting the application form with the right sort of wording, with the right kind of light shining on it. And I'd say, yeah, going through SETsquared and getting some feedback to do that would be hugely helpful as well. I've seen people who've had SETsquared feedback on Innovate grants and it's helped them.
Thanks, Yuri. So Mike and Hez, I've put my email at the bottom of the chat. So if you want to drop me a line, we can have a call and discuss what your plans are. And then if it's appropriate, I'll encourage you to apply. And if not, then we can give you some advice on how to move things forward or introduce you to people that are relevant to helping you outside of the incubator. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Great stuff. Okay, so we've got another question from, is it Aqua? So this is one, I think, for all three of what I'm now going to call the panel. What do you know when how do you know when your startup is ready to look for funding? Which I think it's a hard question. Yuri, I'm going to go to you first, because have you ever got any equity funding, Yuri?
Yeah, I have before. It is a difficult question because you have to ask yourself a couple of questions, I think. Number one, what kind of funding exactly? So, and what is it for? Quite often, organizations can do initially quite a lot without funding, and then actually the fundraise, which happens later, puts you in a much better footing in terms of the kind of money you're raising for either what equity or interest and so on and so forth. And particularly in the last year or so, a lot of banks, in my experience anyway, have been more keen to lend money essentially. So I would really ask yourselves, if you're seeking funding, can that be delayed a little bit if you believe in the business idea and what you're doing through various loans and things before you really hit the equity button? And I think Paul touched briefly on venture debt, which has been quite popular recently. That's also another option that is I've seen go around quite a lot recently. But just ask yourselves, do you really need it? And is this the right moment for me? Can I do it in some other way?
Thanks, Yuri. Do Monica or Rick have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, just I totally agree. Funding is a wide variety of instruments. It's not all about investment. It can be about grants, loans, debt, etc. I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and just drop into the chat window a blog that's up on the SETsquared website that I happen to have written about, am I ready for investment? So that is talking just about the equity part of it, but maybe we'll give you an ambiguous but some assistance towards answering that question.
Thanks, Rick. That's great. Another question from Mike and Hez is, are there discounts for CIC companies? As Monica said, we do have discounts for people that are pre-revenue, but it doesn't matter how you're incorporated in regards to that. And if you are a CIC, then you can always incorporate as a different type of business if you're looking for equity investment. So this is a question from Pavan. So it says, we are an R&D startup for inclusion and disabled initial stage of product development. Does the program help with partnerships to large enterprise for research as they have data? Okay, so as far as I understand, the relationship that we have with both the SETsquared partnership and the University of Bristol means that we have the opportunity to work with 6 different universities, because the University of Cardiff has now been included within the SETsquared Partnership Scale-Up program. So if you're looking to have initial conversations about data and research partnerships between enterprise and universities, then you're in a very good place to do that within the SETsquared family. Pavan, does that answer your question?
Yes, Paul, thank you.
Excellent, wonderful, thank you. So another one from Pavan, which is, what are the options available for research papers published to product development as an MVP is cleared during publishing the article? That is definitely not within my wheelhouse. Rick or Monica, possibly?
I'm just trying to slightly unpick the question. Would you be able to ask the question in a slightly different way, Pavan? So I don't just give you a random wrong answer.
Sure, Rick. Actually, I have published my paper for the IoT plus blockchain plus AIs, and then that requires the direction for the product development or product launch, or the way we go ahead with the product for the market. So I wanted to check, like, if since SETsquared is from academia, I was thinking like you might have good options, or you would have done some from paper to the product development, any success stories you would have had, or any experiences you have had with the other entrepreneurs earlier.
Yeah, well, but certainly there are a number of our companies, because we are closely associated with Bristol University, a number of the startups that have joined are direct spin-outs from the university. By no means all members, and in fact, I think it's still a minority of the companies. Most join us from the wider network. But because of that, we have a lot of experience of working with academics, with spin-outs from universities who have research that has been done elsewhere in different frameworks, under different rules and regulations, etc. So it would depend upon the specifics of your case, but we probably have some experience that is pertinent. That's probably the best answer I can give you without taking the whole video call to go specific into your case.
Thank you, Rick. I think I can reach out with the details for the next discussions. Yeah,
sure.
Excellent. So we have two final questions, and they're both around entry criteria and application. So I will ask Giles's first because it's in sequence to the criteria. So he's asking, could you explain the entry criteria for your idea must be knowledge-based and seeking to exploit intellectual property or novel information? So Monica, would you like to respond?
Yeah, sure. So I know it does sound very complicated, but it's really not. So we're looking for novel ideas and ones that can exploit intellectual property, meaning that you got something unique that you're building, that you've done your research, that there isn't anything else like that being developed, or if there is, you have some sort of competitive advantage over that. So basically, it just means you got a unique idea and you're building something new. So I'll give you an example. You know, if you're developing something but using off-the-shelf software to do that's probably not what we're looking for. Although we have taken companies that have done that, but then there was another aspect of the business that was unique or novel. So we have to look at those cases on an individual basis. But I hope that answers the question.
Excellent, Monica, that's great. The next one, which is from Laura, which will have to be our last question, unfortunately, everybody. So how do you assess an application to become a SETsquared member, and what are some of the common reasons to reject one? I'll let Monica and Rick double hand that one because I know that you've both got good experience with it.
Yeah, so how do I assess this? As I mentioned, we have an application online. So once we receive that application, it really got very basic details on a business, on, you know, what are you developing in terms of product or services, what's the team, what are the financials. It's quite basic. So on the basis of that, we look at, you know, is this a technology business and is this a high growth potential? It's kind of quite broad. And if it is, we would usually invite the individual to come in for interview with us, so we can spend an hour to really doing a deep dive to find out more about this business, because we often don't get enough from just a simple application. But the reasons why we would reject applications is they just seem to be not a fit at all. So maybe it's not a technology business, or there isn't a unique idea behind it, or we find it isn't very scalable. So sometimes we get applications from businesses that perhaps are more of a lifestyle businesses, where there's just one person, that it tends to be the size of a business or a consultancy business. We're looking for more scalable and high growth potential businesses, but we always provide feedback. And as I said, very often we see people then coming back and reapplying once they addressed our challenges.
Excellent, thanks, Monica. Have you got anything to add to that, Rick? We've gone quick, tight on time.
Very briefly, in the interview process, we will ask about your market, your product, your team, your finances, your financial projections, your aspirations and vision, where you want to take it. In any of those areas, there might be some weaknesses exposed. I'd finish just with an example. In the video at the top of the session, you saw Gareth from Yellow Dog. The first time he applied, we rejected him. We rejected him because he didn't quite understand where his product market fit was. He went away, he did 6 months of homework, he reapplied, he got in with flying colours, and his journey started to become a really successful high growth company. So you use the word rejection, I would say realignment possibly, and sent away with good advice. And then it's up to you if you wish to reapply.
Excellent, thanks everybody. I think that's it for the Q&A. Are you going to wrap up and say thank you, Monica?
Yes, just a few things I want to wrap up with. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope that was informative. But if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us. Paul's email is in the chat, but also we'll do a follow-up email to all of you with information on how to apply, more details on how to reach us. Just feel free to come back to us. But if that sounds appealing, please do apply. We look forward to reviewing those applications, and we'll come back to you with next steps. But also, if you're still not sure but would like to get a taste of SETsquared, of what we do, I just wanted to share one more thing that is coming up that might be of interest to you. So on the 15th of June in the afternoon, we're holding a workshop. It's going to be a virtual workshop, so anyone in the UK can apply. So if you're not in Bristol, you're most welcome to sign up. It's called Idea to Pitch. So basically, if you're at the stage when you're trying to figure out, okay, what is my business, what is my pitch, what is it I'm offering, this is really going to help you sharpen that proposition, to clarify your business idea and to help you pitch your proposition. So it's a free workshop. It's a limited capacity, so first comes, first served. We put a link to the registration in the chat, but also in a follow-up email. So you're welcome to sign up to that. And that's it from me. I just wanted to say big thank you to our speakers. Yuri, thank you so much for sharing your story. Rick, thank you for sharing your insights, and Paul for facilitating the session. And thank you to all of our audience for joining. I hope you enjoyed that, and have a great rest of the evening. Bye.